Om Vishwandarpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyanyajantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivod Yatha Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vasishtam Shaktin cha Tatputra Parasharam cha Vyasan Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padma Padancha Hasta Malakancha Shishyam Tantotakam Vatika Karamanyan Asmat Gurun Santatamanatosmi श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठं अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रिय ब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ So I welcome you all to the 25th class of the Fundamentals of Vedanta series. So we've been discussing the question of how an adhikari becomes an adhikari. An adhikari becomes an adhikari by gaining the fourfold qualifications. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampattihi, which is Vivekaha, Vairagyam, Shatka Sampattihi, Samadhi Shatka Sampattihi, and Mumukshutvam. Why are these qualifications important? As we saw, Jivaha is not just ignorant, but the Jivaha is turbulently ignorant. And when the Jivaha is turbulently ignorant, then the words of the Shastra, the words of the Guru cannot do their job. And therefore, the Jivaha has to be calmed down first before the teaching can be given. Why is this Jivaha turbulently ignorant? Because of the presence of two impurities in the mind, Malam and Vikshepaha. As we saw in the last class, Malam Nama Kim. What is this Malam? Malam Nama Papam. Taccha Sanskaratmana Ati Sukshmatvat Na Pratyakshi Kriyate. This is of the nature of past impressions. Ati Sukshmatvat Na Pratyakshi Kriyate. It is extremely subtle. Samskaratmana, of the nature of samskaras. Na pratyakshi kriyate, it cannot be seen. Kintu nishiddha karmanushthanena vishayasaktya chittagata shubha vasanabhihi anumiyate. But it can be inferred, anumiyate. Anumana Praman. How? Because of one's indulgence in nishiddha karmas, because of attraction to sense objects, or because of the rising of thoughts that lead one astray to do adharma. This is malam. And what is vikshepaha? Chittasya chanchalyam, chitta chanchalyam, or this jumping around happening in the mind from one thought to the other. Not chitta ekagrata, not the single pointedness of the mind. The mind is all over the place. This is vikshepaha. So as we said, in order to tackle with malam, we need karma yoga. And in order to tackle vikshepaha, we need upasana yoga. So in order to understand karma yoga, we said we have to understand 4 topics. What are these samskaras or vasanas? What are raga dveshas, likes and dislikes that arise from these vasanas or samskaras? Number 3, what is dharma? And this is something we have looked at before. Number 4, who is Ishvaraha? So once we have these 4 subtopics in place, then we can connect them together and see what karma yoga is. And why is karma yoga recommended and how it works. So all of this we can understand. We understand these 4 topics and how they are connected together. So last week we started discussing about what are vasanas or samskaras. And then we looked at Raga Dveshas also. So we will just briefly revisit that and then move ahead. As we said, vasanas are of the nature of past impressions. Samskaratmana. And how are these past impressions generated? How are these vasanas, samskaras generated? By my own karmas in the past, by my own actions. As we said, each action has got 2 outcomes. One is the phalam, which affects the bhokta, the experiencer, and the other is the vasanas, which influences the karta or the doer. So we took the example of the person who smokes the cigarette. The very first time this person had total free will. He could have chosen not to pick up the cigarette or to pick up the cigarette. He could have chosen either way, but he decided to pick it up. Then he started to smoke. So every time he smokes, it generates both the phalam and the vasana. The phalam affects the experiencer. It may affect his lungs and cause ill health, etc. That is the phalam. It influences the experiencer. He doesn't feel good partly because of his ill health. But then each time he does this, it also generates a vasana. It's more like a habit or the cause of that habit. So he is strengthening the vasana every time. Now, after 10 years of smoking, it is his vasana that makes him pick up the cigarette. He says, my free will is helpless in this regard. Because he has strengthened his vasana so much, he feels that he is helpless. He has to smoke. In spite of reading the warning, cigarette smoking is injurious to health. He still feels compelled to smoke. Is it because of this habit that he has nurtured over the past so many years? So, as we saw, Duryodhana's condition was also similar. Janami dharmam nachame pravrittihi, janami adharmam nachame nivrittihi, kenapi devena hridi stitena yatha niyuktosmi tatha karomi. So he knew what is dharma, what is adharma, what is right and wrong, but he said, I feel compelled to do it by some force within. This is the vasana we are talking. Samskaratman. So the vasana every human being is born with. Why? Because every human being had so many prior janmas. And in those so many prior janmas, so many karmas have been done. Dharma, dharma, both have been done. Every human being is born with these vasanas, and as one lives, then one cultivates new vasanas. The upbringing provides certain vasanas, and then as one lives, one cultivates new vasanas. These vasanas, as we said, are unmanifest. They become manifest under certain conditions. So we saw the first shloka of the Bhagavad Gita, shloka 33, from the third chapter. Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakrutehe jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kinkarishyati. So jnanavanapi swasyaha prakrutehe sadrisham cheshtate. And even a jnani acts according to swasyaha prakrutehe, according to his own prakritihi, meaning vasanas. Even a jnani acts according to that. We see, as we took the example, there have been active jnanis and passive jnanis. There are some jnanis who are passive, who are just happy sitting in one place under a tree. They don't feel compelled to do anything at all. Nobody is compelled to do anything. Even a jnani who's acting is not compelled to act in the sense of, being unfulfilled. Both of these jnanis will say, I am fulfilled, I am Brahman, I am Purna. Both of them will say that. But if we ask the jnani, why are you not acting? He will say, I am Purna. What do I have to gain by acting? There is nothing to gain. And if you ask the jnani who is very active, who is going from here to here, they are establishing mathas, writing, teaching, doing this, doing that. Ask him, why are you active? He'll say, I am Purna. I have nothing to lose by acting. So both of these jnanis, they have this inclination. One jnani has an inclination to not act because he is happy just being there. Another jnani has some inclination to act, and therefore he acts, but he doesn't expect anything out of it. He is full and complete. So they are also acting according to their vasana. So prakritim yanti bhutani, all the creatures are acting according to their prakriti, according to their vasanas, whether it be an insect, a bird, a plant, a tree, a beetle, whatever, reptile, crocodile, everything, including a jnani. That's what the shloka is saying. Nigraha kinkarishyati. What can control do? Control cannot control prakriti. Prakriti will do its job. One cannot tie up prakriti. So this we saw. And then there was a question that was asked, and we will pick up the bhashya from last time. So if you have the PDF file, you can also look at it. So the bhashya, there is a question that was asked. Yadi sarvaha jantuhu atmanah prakritihi atmanah prakriti sadrisham eva cheshtate न च प्रकृतिः न च प्रकृतिशून्यः कश्चित् अस्ति ततः पुरुषकारस्य विषयानुपपत्तेः शास्त्रानर्थक्य प्राप्तौ इदम् उच्यते. So this question is asked, यदि सर्वः जन्तुः आत्मनः प्रकृति सदृशम एव चेष्टते प्रकृति सदृशम एव चेष्टते. So if all the beings are acting according to prakriti only, so adding this only, nacha prakriti shunyah kaschid asti, there is nobody who is free of this prakriti. Tataha purushakarasya vishayanupapattehe, then what happens to free will? It seems like there is no role for free will at all. Shastranarthakya praptau, and what happens to the dharma shastras that are telling me do this, do that, don't do this? Satyam vada. Dharmanchara, Swadhyaya, Anma, Pramadaha. It's all in the form of these do's and don'ts. And if there is no free will, then what is the point of telling somebody do this or don't do this? He will act according to his prakriti only. So this doubt is raised. Then in the next shloka, this is answered, which we said is the free will establishing shloka. For that, there we say, Indriyasyarthe ragadveshau vyavastitau tayor navashamagachet tauhyasya paripanthinau. So here, Bhashya says, Indriyasya arthe sarvendriyanam arthe शब्दादि विषये इष्टे रागः अनिष्टे द्वेषः इति एवं प्रतीन्द्रियार्थे रागद्वेषौ अवश्यं भाविनौ. Avyam bhavinau. What this is saying is indriyasya arthe, with respect to the sense objects of each of the sense organs. Sarvendriyanam arthe, with respect to objects of all of these sense organs. Shabdadi vishaye, meaning shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. These are the objects of the sense organs. So with respect to shabda, etc., shabda, sparsha, etc., ishte ragaha, what is desirable, there will be ragaha. Anishte dveshaha, with respect to that which is not desirable, there will be dvesha, means an aversion. With respect to what is desirable, there is attraction. With respect to what is not desirable, there is aversion. This is natural, universal. Avyam bhavinau. So here we said that the vasanas cannot directly cause somebody to do something. Because the vasanas are unmanifest, na pratyakshi kriyate, they are not even known that it is there. One doesn't even see them until it manifests in the form of raga or dvesha. So only when it manifests in the form of the raga or dvesha, I know that this vasana is there. The unmanifest vasana version of prakriti in the subconscious mind has to manifest as this raga dvesha version of prakriti, which is in the form of thoughts in the conscious mind. So only when the unmanifest vasana becomes raga or dvesha in the conscious mind, I even know that something is there. This vasana must be there. I'm inferring its presence. So as we said, that in this, I don't have a free will. You cannot tie up prakriti. The vasana will do its job. The raga dvesha vrittis helplessly surface in the mind. And when do they surface? He said there has to be some udbodhaka, meaning some stimulant, some situation that prods the vasana and causes it to result in this raga dvesha vritti. A certain situation has to arise, and suddenly a thought arises which I did not know. Oh, so this is how I feel about it. That is when I come to know when that situation arises. As we said, that there is the CCTV, for example, that is looking at a gate. And every time a person comes, the CCTV is programmed to beep. So this person comes, it beeps, he goes, and after a few hours, somebody else comes. At that exact point, this beeps again. Why? Because it has been programmed to do that. So in this manner, there is a certain programming of the mind. There's a programmed part of the mind, which is this vasana. Who created this programming? I myself have created this programming. When through all of my past actions, I have programmed my mind in the form of these vasanas. These are there in everybody. So this kind of advice that don't have raga dvesha, don't have likes and dislikes. This is not what Krishna is saying here. Krishna is not saying don't have likes and dislikes, because he said himself, Nigraha king karishyati. Nobody can tie up Prakriti. So he would be contradicting himself if he says don't have likes and dislikes. He said vasanas will do their job. In terms of giving rise to the Raga Dvesha vritti, nobody can tie up the vasana. So Krishna is not saying here, don't have likes and dislikes. What he's saying here is tayor na vasham agache. Don't come under their sway, is what Krishna is saying. Don't come under their spell. So, as we said, this vasana can only act through this intermediate stage. So, there are three stages. One is the vasana. The second stage is this vrittihi, raga dvesha vrittihi. And the third stage is called vyaparaha, where this vrittihi gets converted into either speech or action. Because I like something, I say something. Because I dislike something, I say something else. Because I like something or dislike something, one acts according to that, let us say. And that is the vyaparaha. So Swamiji points out that you can think of this vasana as being like a grandmother. Grandmother to whom? To this vyaparaha. So the mother of this vyaparaha, this is raga dvesha vrittihi, and its mother is this vasana. The vasana is like a grandmother. Why a grandmother, not a grandfather? Because it's a strilinga shabda in Sanskrit. It is feminine gender. It's like a grandmother. This vrittihi is again a strilinga shabda. Therefore, we said it's the mother of this vyapara. So this grandmother is trying to make that child, the grandchild vyapara, do something through the mother, through her child, which is this vrittihi. Now, let's take a person who is ignorant. So the ignorant person has this samanya jnanam that I am there. Samanya jnanam that I am there, he has. So he says, I am happy, I am sad, etc. He says a lot of things associated with this I am. So he cannot say that unless he knew that I am. So he knows I am. He knows that I exist. So samanya jnanam is there. But the vishesha jnanam of who I am is not there. He doesn't know I am Purnaha Brahma. He doesn't know that. Purnam Brahma I am, he doesn't know. So, why? Basically, this is the lack of the Vishesha Jnanam. And we said this invariably leads to a mistake. This is a rope, I don't know. I just know this is. Something is there. So the Samanya Jnanam is there. This is Jnanam is there. But this is a rope, Jnanam is not there. And therefore it leads to the superimposition to a mistake that this is a snake. This is a snake. Similarly, I am. The Samanya Jnanam is there. The Vishesha Jnanam of who I am is not there. So this person makes a mistake about who I am. He starts to say, I am this body and mind. He superimposes the attributes of the body and the mind upon himself. He says, I am this body and mind. So at this point also you can say he is ignorant. He is not turbulently ignorant. So now let us see what makes him turbulently ignorant. Now the vasanas are there in the mind. The vasanas are there. When these vasanas, when he looks at the world, then he is looking at the world as though through colored glasses. For example, if I wear colored glasses, blue glasses, then everything appears blue. If I wear red glasses, everything appears red. Now consider an example where there is these glasses where the upper half of the lens is red, the lower half is blue. So when one looks down, everything looks blue, and one looks up, everything looks red. Now, the vasanas are something like that. That a situation comes up, in the world, as even as one is scanning the world. This is the udbodhaka, the scanning of the world prods the vasanas, which gives rise to ragas and dveshas, likes and dislikes. So then one starts to say, I like this part of the world, I dislike this part of the world. So it is like looking at the world through the colored glasses which are caused by these vasanas. Because of the presence of vasanas, one invariably classifies the world as desirable and undesirable, and then there's raga, dvesha, vrittis that arise in the mind. So now this person says, I am apurnaha. I am this body and the mind. But then this mind has got these ragas and dveshas. So then he says, I am this apurnaha person who has these ragas and dveshas. These ragas and dveshas are mine. I have these likes. I have these dislikes. That is the next level of superimposition that happens. This Purna person, really speaking, he is Purnaha, but due to this, there is a sequence here that the Ajnanam causes Adhyasaha, superimposition. The Adhyasa brings in these Ragadveshas as the next level. So I am Apurnaha and I have these likes, I have these dislikes. So then he considers the likes and dislikes to be a core part of himself. All of this is out of ignorance, because if he really knew who he is, being Purna Brahman, if he had that Purnam Brahma, if he had that Jnanam, he would not say these Ragadveshas are an intrinsic part of myself. He would not say that this body and mind is an intrinsic part of me. He would not say that. But in ignorance now, he starts to say all of these Ragadveshas are my intrinsic part. So then if somebody interviews a celebrity, for example, they ask, what do you like to eat? He says, I like to eat chocolate ice cream or something like that. And then he asks, what do you like to, what kind of music do you like? And then he says, I like such and such music, etc. And then he asks, well, where do you like to visit? And what do you dislike? So one tends to form an idea of a person using the likes and dislikes of that person. So this is how core these likes and dislikes become as a part of one's personality. One starts to identify oneself with it so strongly, this becomes an intrinsic part of my identity. And then everything, all of my pursuits in life, and how one responds to situations, how one responds to people, how one responds to objects, all of this is determined by these ragas and dveshas. If two people meet and they are discussing, for example, they are looking to get married. So if two people meet, the boy and the girl, then they evaluate their compatibility based on the ragas and dveshas. For example, she says, I love to play badminton, for example. I said, oh, I also like to do that. Wonderful, wonderful, and all that. And they think that they both are compatible. And then if somebody says that, I like, I hate dogs, but then this other person loves dogs and wants to keep a pet, then he says, oh, this is not going to work out. So this become a very core part of one's personality. And to some extent, these are important. Definitely, in terms of marriage, etc. To some extent, there has to be compatibility. If there's a lot of dissonance, then that is not that is not good for that particular relationship. But here we are not talking about marriage. Here we are talking about the reality of who this person is. So all of this gets added on. And this person is adding these layers on top of who he really is. So these ragas and dveshas are me. That is what it becomes. Now these ragas and dveshas, if you see, they are not properties or attributes of the objects or people outside. For example, the same object can be liked by one person, can be disliked by another person, and a third person may be neutral to that object or person. So one is happy acquiring a certain object. Another person is happy disposing of that same object. In fact, this is why most transactions happen. If you take any transaction, like one person is selling a car. And why is he selling the car? Because he feels that I have some better option. Now I don't want this car because I'm spending money on it. So he wants to sell it. But the other person is seeing something good in the car. He likes the car. He may even be a scrap dealer who sees a good value in the car. So he buys the car. So these ragas and dveshas are not attributes of these objects, but they are superimpositions done by one's own mind. Similarly, one person divorces a spouse, saying that we are finding it very difficult to live with this person. But another person is seeing something good in the same person. He wants to marry that person. Again, ragas and dveshas are not a property or attribute of that object or person. So we live in a very subjective world, a world that consists of us evaluating everything in terms of our ragas and dveshas, in terms of our likes and dislikes. So anytime we see an object, we immediately put this idea, I like this object or I don't like this object. And then one transacts according to those terms. So now these ragas and dveshas basically whip a jiva into action. Because this person who has these ragas and dveshas in the mind, the person becomes dependent upon situations. The more ragas and dveshas are there, the more dependent the person is on certain situations. If a such situation is not according to the ragas or dveshas the person has, then he wants to fix up that situation so that it becomes in line with one's ragas and dveshas. So how does one get the world in line with one's own likes and dislikes? Through karma. One has to act. So now this is the fourth level of this development. Ajnanam, adhyasa, raga, dvesha, karma. So if one thinks that if I do this karma, then I will be fulfilled. If I do that karma, I will be fulfilled. So then the jiva runs after the object of his like. The jiva runs away from the object of his dislike or tries to push away the object of his dislike. How? Through karma. What happens if this person succeeds? If this person succeeds, then we said the karma generates two things, phalam and vasana. The phalam, it might give him some fulfillment that, as we have seen, it's a temporary fulfillment. But he experiences some fulfillment out of it. The experience, the phalam affects the experience. He experiences some fulfillment. And then there is the vasana that is generated that influences the karta. So it wants him to it makes him do that same action again. He wants to do the same action again because it has given him fulfillment. Even though the fulfillment was temporary and all he sees is some temporary fulfillment, he thinks, I have to repeat the same action again to get that fulfillment, even if it is temporary. What else? I don't know of any other way to gain this fulfillment. But unknowingly, he's digging himself deeper into this hole. Let's think of a person who is in a hole and he's trying to get out of the hole. But in his struggle, and he's moving his feet this way, that way, he's struggling to get out. He's somehow pushing himself deeper into the hole. This is what this person is doing. He's strengthening the vasana, he's strengthening the raga dvesha, he's giving more power to the raga and dvesha. Now, what if his act, if his karma did not give the desired result? And that leads to frustration, helplessness, anger, frustration. So if it works, he's digging himself deeper into that hole. He's making the raga dvesha stronger. If it doesn't work, then he is frustrated, angry, depressed, helpless. This is the turbulence of the mind that we are talking. So if his karma got fulfilled, as we saw, the fulfillment is temporary. And then the next set of raga dveshas make him push him in some other direction. Because as we said, one has to deal with body, one's own mind, family, possessions, profession. These are the things with respect to which one has ragas and dveshas most. People in the family, people in the profession, with respect to one's possessions. But something or the other, the world is always changing. The world will never stay the way it is. So something or the other will change. That is not in accordance with his ragas and dveshas. Then he has to act again. Something or the other changes. He acts, fixes this. Something or the other changes. He has to act again. New situations come up. Situations develop. He has to act to always adjust the world according to his ragas and dveshas. But then the resources in the world are limited. He may not always get what he wants. And as we said, the world is unreliable, unsustainable, uncontrollable. So again, he may not get what he wants, or he may temporarily get it and it falls apart. So it is natural that one feels frustrated in this entire process. Like this is the samsara that we have been talking about. Trying to gain fulfillment out of the pursuit of the first three purusharthas. What keeps him going is some hope that sometime in the near future I will get things all right. I will fix this, I'll fix that, I'll get some fulfillment here and there. That keeps him going. But then he remains apurnaha throughout. And that keeps him going as well. Because he remains apurnaha, he cannot stand his apurnatva. So he keeps going, This is never ending. The mind is always engaged in something or the other. If he gets what he gets is above what he expected, then there is some elation. It's short-lived, but there is some elation. If what he gets is below what he expects, then there is frustration, anger, etc. So this is the turbulence of the mind, constantly engaged in something or the other, pushed around by his ragas, dveshas, and never finding moments. You may get some moments of some peace here and there, some fulfillment here and there, but nothing is lasting. This is the turbulent mind. Kritima hodadhau patana karanam phalam ashashvatam gati nirodhakam. This is from the Upadesha Saram. Kritima dadhau patana karanam. He falls into this ocean of actions. Because he is compelled to act. Because he is apurnaha, he sees no choice but to act. Kritima dadhau patana karanam. He falls into this ocean of actions. This is samsara. Phalama shashvatam, whatever phala he gets, whatever fulfillment he gets, that is not lasting. Ashashvatam, gati nirodhakam. This is this is an obstacle. All of these, they slow down his spiritual progress. We want to be really on the path to moksha. But then all of this doesn't make him come to that path. Keeps him constantly engaged in all of this. As we said, none of these actions, none of these accomplishments are inimical to the ignorance. The ignorance remains there. So the apurnatvam, which is the adhyasa, remains. And then the Raga Dveshas remain. And then these Raga Dveshas even get strengthened in the process. So he is in this helpless situation. He is apurnaha and he sees no choice but to act. He keeps acting, strengthens Raga Dveshas, he acts, strengthens Raga Dveshas, he remains apurnaha. So he's stuck in this. Like a quagmire, in some kind of a quagmire. Once you get stuck, you put your other foot up, this foot goes down, you pull that up, this foot goes down, you are not able to come out of it. So he is stuck in this quagmire of apurnatvam. So we will look at the subsequent part of the bhashyam here. So as we said, this shloka does not say don't have raga dveshas. What he's saying is tayorna vasham agachet. Don't come under the spell of the raga dveshas. So we will resume from this point, which says tatra ayam, which is the second para in the bhashyam of the 34th shloka of the third chapter. Tatra ayam purushakarasya shastrarthasya cha vishayah uchyate. So this shloka is now saying something about the Dharma Shastras, the relevance of the Dharma Shastras and the free will. That was the question that was raised earlier. That is, everything is happening according to Prakriti. What is the role of the Shastras and the free will? So here is a significant line that says in Shankara's Bhashyam, Shastrarthe pravrittaha purvameva ragadveshayoho vashanna agachet. So Shastrarthe pravrittaha purvameva ragadveshayoho vashanna agachet. So the key to it is spiritual education. One needs the Shastra education. Because the Shastra is showing a vision for how one can get to this Purnatva. So Shastrathe pravrittaha, one who is trying to learn from the Shastra, one who's trying to imbibe what the Shastra is teaching, such a person, purvameva ragadveshayoho vashamna agachet. So such a person who is an informed person, after having learnt the Shastras to some extent, what the Dharma Shastras are saying, the do's and don'ts, what is Dharma, what is Adharma, having learnt this, and as we said, Dharma is also common sense. I know through my common sense also what this other person does not want done. I don't want certain things to be done to me. Similarly, I don't want to do certain things to this other person also. It's common sense. So through the Shastra, through common sense, one knows. And such a person who is shastrarthe pravrittaha, one who wants to imbibe, one who wants to walk on the path that the Shastra is showing, such a person, Raga Dveshayoho Vasham na agachet, such a person doesn't come under the spell of the Ragas and Dveshas. He doesn't come under their sway. So we'll continue. Yahi purushasya prakritihi sa ragadvesha purassara eva swakarye purusham pravartayati tada swadharma parityagaha paradharmanushthanancha bhavati. So here he says, Yahi purushasya prakritihi sa ragadvesha purassara eva swakarye purusham pravartayati. So this vasana, so what Shankara is saying, that this vasana cannot make this person directly do something. It has to do it only through raga dvesha vrittis in the conscious mind. Only through raga dvesha vrittis, vasanas can influence this person. And tada swadharma parityagaha paradharmanushtanam cha bhavati. If this person is blindly under the sway of the ragas and dveshas, then swadharma parityagaha can happen. This person can give up what the dharma, what this person should be doing. He may not do that. And paradharmanushtanam, what is somebody else's dharma or what is adharma, he may end up doing that if he blindly goes by his likes and dislikes. And in fact, this is what most of the materialistic society is doing. Whatever comes to that mind that day, oh, today is such and such a day, today I like to do this, let me do that. Today I don't want to do this, I will not do that. So a materialist is purely under the grip of the ragas and dveshas. And there is no shastra there, no dharma, no moksha purushartha there. So such a person will naturally tend to do a dharma or not do one's dharma or do somebody else's dharma which is equivalent to a dharma. So here in the next sentence, yada punaha ragadveshau tat pratipakshena niyamayati tada shastra drishtihi eva purusho bhavati na prakriti vashaha. So, on the other hand, now Shankara is talking about somebody how one can not come under the sway of the raga dveshas. So before this, I wanted to add something that the ultimate way out of this is to discover one's purnatvam. When one finds that one is purnaha, then these raga dveshas, they cannot compel one to do something. They lose their grip on the individual. So the ultimate solution is purnatva. But then, how does this purnatvam arise? Through the teaching of Vedanta. So now consider an ignorant person who says, I am apurnaha. He is in the grip of the ragas and dveshas. Because he is in the grip of the ragas, dveshas, the mind is turbulent. In such a person, the teaching of Vedanta cannot help. So he is in a kind of a cycle. Consider a person whose hands are like tied up with a rope. And then he holds a scissor with his fingers. Now the scissor can cut the rope, but his hands are tied up, so he is not able to use the scissor effectively. The tying up needs to be loosened a bit. Once it's loosened a bit, he can cut it. So Vedanta, the teaching of this Vedanta is like the scissor that can cut the grip of these ragas and dveshas. But then when these ragas and dveshas are tightly holding this person and making the mind turbulent, this teaching, which is in the form of the scissors that can cut the grip, it is not effective. So the teaching is there, but the grip of the ragas, dveshas is strong. This cannot work. And as long as the teaching doesn't work, the ragas and dveshas will continue their grip. This person is kind of stuck. That Pujya Swamiji calls this a vicious cycle. So we ourselves know that when I have some strong like or dislike, for example, if a person has some strong like or dislike that the spice has to be this much in the food, the spice has to be exactly right, the salt has to be exactly right, then every meal can create disturbance in the mind. Because invariably in some meal the spice will be more, salt will be less. In some other day the salt will be more, spice will be less. And if he is in the grip of such a raga and dvesha, then invariably it will lead to disturbance in the mind. On the other hand, we ourselves also are familiar with certain likes and dislikes which are more like preferences. If this is there, that is fine, wonderful. I love vanilla ice cream. If I get that, wonderful. If that is not there, also okay, I'll just pass it. It's not a big deal. I don't have to have an ice cream. If one is in such a situation, then the world loses its hold. The raga dveshas lose their hold upon this person. So this is the key. I have to somehow disempower these ragas and dveshas that can make the mind turbulent. So this is known as samatvam. When the ragas and dveshas lose their hold on the mind, then there is samatvam. A certain equanimity, a certain equipoise of the mind is there. No matter what fluctuations are there, no matter what the situation is, one is okay in its presence, one is okay also in its absence. So this samatvam is what we need. This samatvam, once it comes in, it loses the grip of the raga dveshas. So one has to discover a value for the samatvam and try to attain this samatvam. And this is done by disempowering the ragas and dveshas. So tayor na vasham agache. Don't come under the spell, don't come under the sway. But then how is this done? So I'll take a few more minutes and conclude this discussion. So there we will look at the next para in the Bhashyam. Yada punaha ragadveshau tat pratipakshena niyamayati tada shastra drishtihi eva purusho bhavati na prakriti vashaha. So here Shankara is saying, Yada punaha ragadveshau tat pratipakshena niyamayati. So if one is able to counterbalance this raga dvesha, so one needs some kind of a counterbalancing vritti to be there. This raga dvesha vritti arises, I have no say in it. Prakriti is doing its job, but I should not blindly go by this raga dvesha. I need to apply a filter as we have discussed. This filter is the dharma adharma vivekaha. Tasmat shastram pramanante karya vyavasthitau. Let the shastra be the pramanam for what should be done, what should not be done. So once one has this shastra drishtihi, once one is this shastra drishtihi, for one whom shastram is the pramanam for what should be done, what should not be done, then he applies this filter. And if the Raga Dvesha Vritti has arisen, if the Raga Vritti wants me to do some adharma, why is it wanting me to do some adharma? Because there is some short-term fulfillment or gain it is seeing there. But then I need to bring in this counterbalancing thought. Hey, this may give a little bit of kick or fulfillment in the short term, but in the long term, it will cause me. This is the counterbalancing vritti. Tat pratipakshena. Pratipaksha means opposite. Tat pratipakshena niyamayati. One doesn't act on this raga vritti by bringing in this pratipaksha vritti. And similarly, if doing something is the right thing to do, but then a dvesha vritti might arise for that. This japa is going to take me half an hour. I can do something else instead of that. I don't really want to do this at this point. That dvesha vritti might arise. But then again, one brings in the counterbalancing vritti, saying that this is the right thing to do. It may cause me some pain in the short term, but will bring me happiness in the long term. Pratipakshena niyamayati tada shastra drishtihi eva purusho bhavati na prakriti vashaha. Such a person is a shastra drishtihi purushaha. Such a person is no longer na prakriti vashaha. He is not under the control of prakriti, be it the vasanas or the raga dveshas. And then he concludes this, tasmat tayoho raga dveshayoho vashanna agachet yatah tauhi asya purushasya परिपंथिनौ श्रेयो मार्गस्य विघ्नकर्तारौ तस्करौ इव इत्यर्थः. So tasmat, therefore, tayoho ragadveshayoho vashan agachet. Don't come under the spell, under the sway of the ragadvesha vrittis. Always bring in this pratipaksha vritti that is able to counterbalance this ragadvesha vritti. And because tauhi asya purushasya paripanthinau means robbers. These raga dvesha vrittis are like robbers. They rob one of one's viveka. If one is going on a long journey, and in the long journey, if one is carrying food and some clothing and some money, etc., that is needed for the journey. Now the robbers come in and they take this away. This person cannot continue on the journey. So Shreyo Margasya Vignakartarau, one is on the Shreya Margaha, one is on the Margaha, on the Dharma Margaha, Moksha Margaha. If one is on this Margaha that leads to happiness in the long term, Shreyo Margaha, Vignakartarau, these are the ones that create obstacles for you in this Shreyo Margaha. Tasmat tayoho vasham na agache. Don't come under the sway of these ragas and dveshas. So this concludes the bhashyam of this shloka. So in this is where karma yoga comes in. So we have understood what vasanas are, what raga dveshas are, and how they affect this person, and how they should be counterbalanced. So we have understood two parts of this four-part thing that we are talking about. Then the missing pieces are Dharmaha and Ishvara. Dharmaha we have already discussed. Ishvaraha we will take up. So this is the method for neutralizing the ragas and dveshas, is karma yoga. When we see that entire karma yoga completely, when we connect everything, then that is the method for gaining this samatvam. Therefore, we should develop a value for the samatvam and adopt the means to gain it, which is karma yoga. We'll continue this discussion in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. I took some extra time since we spent some initial part in the Guru Purnima discussion. So we will have about 5 minutes for any comments or questions. If there are any comments or questions, you can ask. Yes, Balaji.
So these vasanas, whatever they accumulated from the past, that so when they are expressed in terms of raga dvesha, are we spending them, or is it just in this, whenever it is expressed in terms of raga dvesha, are we depleting the reserve, or is it still staying the same? That's number one. Number two is how do we accumulate in future these vasanas? How are we accumulating for the future? These are the two. I just want to get clarification.
Sure. So as we said, that if we are indiscriminately pursuing the ragas and dveshas, then that definitely ends up reinforcing it, as we took the example of the cigarette smoker, etc. Whereas if one adopts this approach of karma yoga and then is filtering these raga dveshas, doing what is dharma and not doing what is adharma, then certainly even in that case you can say that it is strengthening the vasanas, but then it is loosening the grip of the raga dveshas. If it is an adharma raga, for example, it's loosening its grip and replacing it with something else, which is the dharma raga for something that is dharma. So that will tend to happen. So as one starts to do these sattvika karmas, etc., then those kinds of vasanas also become stronger. This is why we have people who at a very young age start with noble thoughts and become Mahatmas and all that at a very young age. It is also because of Purva Janma Samskaras only. So does that
I'm still trying to see, is it always there? The vasanas are still remaining with you, or they're remaining?
They are remaining. It is impossible to eliminate. Even a jnani doesn't eliminate the vasanas, because vasanas have been accumulated in millions of, actually infinite past janmas. The vasanas have been accumulated. The jnani cannot eliminate all of them, because that would take, if theoretically one could eliminate, it would require infinite janmas. So our job is not elimination of these vasanas, but to gain this purnatva, become sufficiently free of their grip, right? It's like loosening their hand somewhat. The rope is still there, and they are cut with the scissors, right? So similarly, one has to sufficiently loosen their grip to the point one gets samatvam. But this samatvam is also a relative samatvam. Samatvam gained through karma yoga is not this absolute freedom. Something else can happen that can disturb the mind. The absolute freedom comes only through jnanam, but that jnanam gets an opportunity to work in a mind that has samatva. So,
thank you.
Sure. Vishwanathan?
Yes, sir. The vasanas continues from past, past deeds and past karmas, correct? No?
Yes.
It continues. It get manifested in various forms and other thing. My question here is, in the past vasanas, both good and bad will continue. Am I right? So whatever you have done, past imprints, or good imprints as well as bad imprints.
Bad, right.
So which one will dominate in the subsequent jivas or birth of as a human being? Because we may take birth according to what dharmic way we have done, adharmic way. Accordingly, we may get a human being birth, or maybe animal, or maybe something else.
Right.
So how is this going to shape up in continuing the past karmas with good and bad? That's the first question. Second question, whatever actions we do in a day-to-day life, we expect something in return. This is a human tendency. I need this back. If I do this, I will get promotion. If I get this, I will get salary. So by talking about this karma yoga, what my understanding on karma yoga is, do your actions without expecting any results. If we practice, can we avoid this vritti coming into mind, and then can I eliminate the vasanas, eliminate the vasanas from my whole thing? Is it possible with this approach?
So I'll take your second question first.
Yeah.
So the vasanas, one doesn't have to, as we discussed, completely eliminate the vasanas. That is not our goal. The vasanas will continue to be there. They will lead to the raga dvesha vrittis, but then one doesn't come under their sway. Either as a karma yogi also doesn't come under their sway because he applies the filter of dharma. And a jnani doesn't come under their sway because he knows he's purna.
Okay.
Because see, final understanding is I am not this body mind.
I'm nothing on body mind, correct?
I am not this body mind. I am Purnam Brahma. This is the understanding we have to come to. So, if the body mind has limitations and some vasanas gathered from the past, once one discovers one's Purnatvam as Brahman, then the defects of the body mind are defects of the body mind. They are not my defects. They are not my defects. Right?
Will vanish.
Well, the defects of the body mind are there.
Okay.
But they are not my defects.
Oh.
So that is the point one has to come to.
Till the time then you cannot realize. That's what my other question, you see. Till you get that jnanam, you will not be able to realize that. Am I right?
Yes, this comes only through jnanam that I am Purnam Brahma. And I am not the body mind. The defects, the shortcomings, the limitations of the body mind are limitations of the body mind. They are not my limitations. Once one comes to this point, the millions of vasanas that are accumulated, they stop bothering me.
Oh.
So this is basically this is the jnanam. This is what Purnatvam is. This is what Purnatvam is. I cannot be Purnaha continuing to be the body and mind.
So suppose if I eliminate the thought process of I am the body and I am the mind and the ego, all these things of vritti and counterbalance of this vritti can be controlled. I'll ask the other way.
So once see there are two levels at which we have to talk about it, again at the karma yoga level and at the jnani's level. So the karma yoga level, one is constantly applying the filter.
Okay.
Dharma and adharma. So that continues to happen. Now who becomes a jnani? Who becomes a jnani? A karma yogi only becomes a jnani.
Yes, correct.
Subsequently. So the jnani has also trained his mind in his long sadhana to apply this filter. So even a jnani is purnaha. So there are still two levels. One is not compelled to pursue that vritti because he knows I am purnaha. But then he also he will not engage. He will helplessly not engage in adharma also because he has trained his mind to apply this kind of a filter. So the jnani will not act in an adharmic fashion. The vritti may arise, but the vritti will die. And then he doesn't judge himself because of the vritti, past limitation of the body and the mind.
Okay. Understood. Very clear. Yeah. And then the first question, anything related to that,
So basically, can you just repeat the first part?
Yeah, the past vasanas can contain both good and bad vasanas.
Yes.
So which one will dominate in the subsequent rebirth?
So that is something that is purely determined by the law of karma.
Oh.
Whatever karmas are about to fructify, what janma one is going to get, etc., everything is determined by the law of karma.
Oh.
And it is not hard to predict what is going to happen. But the only assurance is if one is determined on this path, if one is convinced, if one is working on this path, then Krishna gives an assurance that for somebody who is pursuing this spiritual path with all one's dedication and sincerity, and if he doesn't attain the goal in this janma, then the next janma will be a human janma where he'll continue from where he left off.
Oh, okay. Why this questions came to my mind was, somebody in the previous or current janma, lot of good things have done. Simultaneously, for doing the good things, early background, I did some bad things, other mass to reach to do the good things. So from that angle, this thought process came to mind. Which one will dominate? That's the reason I asked this question.
Yes, it's very hard to say. In fact, when we discuss the law of karma, we will discuss one story from the Mahabharata also that will throw more light on this about Dhritarashtra's life.
Okay.
And that is a very insightful story. We will discuss that when we discuss the law of karma.
Right, sir. Thank you. I think wonderful session today. Thank you so much, sir. Namaskar.
So we will conclude today.
Yes. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Yeah. Happy Purnima day.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Satyan
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Dhanyawada.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.